Alright, we are recording, and as it says up there, this is not Mad Max, this is going medieval, which he was also provided by Tinsley PR for the Irregular Corporation, as I recall. So this, as it says there, is an early access, and I reviewed it back when it released to early access, and I mean, early access is kind of a weird thing to review because you know there's going to be things changing in it. Well, one of the first major update for it, there we go. That's what I was trying to get to, just was trying to use different words. The first major update for it has released, which is the Shelves and Rack update. Which I actually said in the release notes even. They were thinking about doing the Shelves and Rack stuff later, but so many people wanted them. So as it says here, we got Shelves and Weapon Racks, larger maps, stockpile priority, so that's if you have two stockpiles, you can set that one should be what the settlers take stuff to sooner. Rebalance to how temperature works, some quality of life stuff. Stability and optimization. Apparently there was an issue with resources on stockpiles and how things were checked. That should improve. New decorative structure and also a rebalance to trebuchets. Which I'm not going to be seeing because yeah, that should... Well, yeah. Because this should be, it looks like trebuchets are just brought in when you're being attacked, so it's not like you can build them. Wish I could. That would be fun. Yeah, so it's, that's something, you know, that we won't be seeing because this is a peaceful, because I enjoy this. I enjoy just being able to, you know, do the settlement management stuff, even though I did still build up defenses here, which that's partly for curiosity and partly just to get through the bricks. Alright, and I think this is one that I only have only been doing offline. So yeah, we got here's okay, very high. Okay, and that's, have them set to work on that. I like building undergrounds and stuff. Yeah, how you actually do that. One thing I'm curious. Okay, it does say I'm inside, but that's really. It was weird seeing stuff talking about how, oh yeah, you can have like common brain turnover. You can have, you know, like a kitchen room. It's like we have people like doing that. I mean, I'm sorry, I do it this way. I just have the stuff there. I guess you could, you know, put down the walls, have an actual floor plan where it's like, no, here's the kitchen. But I don't know. One change that I do remember being noted was, okay, like right here, because I'm looking at the floor here, it doesn't show the resource items anymore. Because that was definitely something I do remember criticizing, complaining about. That you could have it where the stuff on a higher level would block you, because, like here, I want to do something here. It's really annoying if I'm clicking on this, for example. Alright, yeah, let's so here we got things like that. So, how do I want to do some of this? How much wood do I even have? I've got plenty. Does that need to be on a wall? So I think just freestanding would be better for how I want these things to work. What fair idea. So let's, and I do have news stuff to talk about. The thinking here is, because I don't necessarily know how they are approached, if I do it that way, then I know that all sides can be gotten to, or at least most sides. What about the stuff I've got? In there, in there. Okay. And I do feel like that stuff doesn't happen. Alright, so I'll just let them do their thing. You can hear furniture 2, that's where... yes, the chest and the armor rack. That's where those are unlocked. Thought there was... Well, maybe it's just... Okay, yeah, here's the preserving chest. Okay. So while they do their thing, let me just... What news I got here. Talk about the RX 6600 XT release. Based on the things I've seen, already talked about the Going Medieval update. Splitgate, I finally spent some time in that and saw something really neat, and also something else that I've mentioned before, Dr. Ian Cuntress's Tech Potato channel, and for those of you who don't know who he is one of the writers over at Nantech, and his specialty is CPUs, and that includes, you know, like server CPUs and such. He's very knowledgeable on that stuff, and also used to be a serious overclocker. It's actually how he got his job, but that's not what his PhD is. But anyway, he has on his Tech Potato YouTube channel a couple of videos, only looked at one, talking about this thing that Facebook engineering has put together that is actually pretty neat. So hopefully I can accurately summarize the idea. Every computing chip somewhere in the system for it has a clock mechanism, a crystal oscillator, somewhere on the motherboard of the desktop, of your laptop, of your smartphone, whatever. There has to be one, because you need to know when certain events happen, as well as the ordering of you. The problem is, you know, sometimes it gets out of whack. It happens. None of that has been built. I really would like... Oh, wait, no, now they go. So, yeah, and for a desktop, it's, you know, you losing a second every now and then isn't so bad, and also there are ways that your desktop can phone into various servers to get accurate time, and then it fixes itself. I really don't care what these things. I'm just something like that. So yeah, for a desktop, for a consumer system, it doesn't really matter so much if you lose a second here and there. It can, but it'll fix itself and things won't be too big of a problem. But imagine for the likes of Facebook, mentioned that they were the ones working on this, where they have, you know, hundreds, thousands of systems set up, servers set up in data centers. That's a bit more of a problem if you have things not properly synced up. Because, you know, then you'd run into things like one server sending a command and another server getting it, but thinking that it can be done ahead of something else. That's a major problem. You know, it's the ordering of operations being done is very important. If you get those wrong, you can cause crashes. I know that can happen on computers, but also Like imagine banking details, where just the order of certain things got out of whack, so suddenly you're trying to withdraw more money than is there because the deposit didn't go through yet, even though you submitted the deposit request first. Things like that can happen, and that's why having things synced up properly is important. But there's always, some latency, and whether you're connecting to an NTP, network time protocol? Is that what that stands for? I know it is NTP, that's the acronym, that's the initial for the servers that handle this stuff. Oh, it hasn't been made. Hopefully that will get everybody to move stuff to where it should be. Syncing up with those servers, it's like you do have a latency there, and also you're only accurate as they can be accurate, and also there's the option of using GPS. That is actually how GPS works, by the way, is the GPS satellites are just basically broadcasting their position as well as their time, and I'm pretty sure they do have their own atomic clocks on board the satellite. And then the receiver just picks that up, and based on the different time measurements and the position measurements that it has, able to triangulate position, though it more than just triangulate. It will use more than just two. So yeah, that is how GPS works, but it's still, like those local servers will be a bit better because they're closer. And also, it's we can have a landline connecting your desktop through various other servers to an NTP. You'd need special antennas to connect to a GPS. But anyway, this thing that Facebook has put together is an atomic clock on a PCIe card. Yep, we have succeeded in getting atomic clocks that miniaturized. Now that doesn't mean that that these specific ones are going to be that accurate. Compared to a larger one. But it is a thing. I think it's specifically a rubidium atomic clock. But yeah, so it's that's something that they're doing, and I do see what the disadvantage is. By the way. Can't have stuff like hay, straw on there. It's only food, textiles, and milk. I got it. I'll basically just set one side of this to those, leave the other side as it. So yeah, it's like Facebook, their goal would be to have a atomic clock in their own servers, so that way they can know very precisely what the time is and ensure that the different operations that in some cases you do need microsecond or nanosecond precision will actually, occur at the right time. And by the way, one example that Ian Cuttress gave in his video towards the end was that, imagine when gaming and the server lag, and suddenly people are in a different spot once it updates and all that. That's something that could be reduced with this, because if you have this PCIe atomic clock installed and the server does as well, that way they are able to communicate exactly when certain events happen, or at least more precisely than normal. And from that, they can then better tell where things should be, even when there is some latency, so they can make sure they have the ordering more correct. Now this PCIe card was relatively large, what he was holding up. It's like it looked about the size of a GPU to me. Maybe not a full-size GPU, but like 3/4 size. But I would not be surprised if this will end up being like many pieces of technology. First time you have it, that, it might be clunky, it might be big, but in just years and far less time than it took to initially make that, you'll see significantly better version And I could also definitely believe that at one point we will have atomic clocks that will be just a single chip on a motherboard. Part of the reason why I believe that is I'm pretty sure there are researchers working on miniaturizing atomic clocks and getting them to function in silicon. Harvest some stuff. Oh yeah, that reminds me, one of the changes that they made is that smoked meat and cooked vegetables will be raw. Will count as raw food, which that doesn't seem right, but whatever. I get how it is closer to raw food than a full meal, but it also is like it is prepared. Anyhow. Yeah, so at some point I do want to look at the second video that he put out. There's like more of a technical breakdown of how it works. Let me see the other news I got here. The Splitgate stuff. Let's talk about that, which I finally played a match yesterday. I installed it a few days ago. I was looking at it. And there's one thing that when I saw it, it's like, that's very interesting. I wonder. And then I started experimenting with it a little bit for myself. Then I had my dad look at it. I've mentioned my dad a few times before in some of the streams, but also when reviewing games. Because my dad is colorblind. And, well, here, let me pause it. There's a reason why I'm pausing it. And, you know, so because I know him, obviously, it is interesting to me then to see how different games do implement colorblind system. Because to me, it seems that the majority out there, all they do is change the UI. That's all they do. Which, I can see that being somewhat helpful, but is it really all that helpful? Because it's like, if you look at the scene right here, if you have full color vision, you're not gonna have any problem with it. But my dad might have problem between seeing that we have these red berries here versus just well, actually this is yellow enough, you might be able to tell, but if it were a stronger green, actually no, this might be harder, I'm not sure. One disadvantage to not being colorblind is it's hard to really know where all the distinctions are. But it's just he might not be able to tell how many of the berries are here and if this stuff is ready to be gathered, to be harvested or not. And I know that in part because we grow tomatoes and he can't always pick them. Which is why when I've brought this up is that in some games when I look at the colorblindness stuff, it is a picking tomato standard that I want to see, where it is the whole image is changed. So we would see the red and the green, yellow, green, green, yellow here shifted to colors that would be easier for him to distinguish. And maybe it is that maybe there are other games that do this. It is also true that you don't always see combinations of colors like this that would be hard. But open up Splitgate, and I scroll down in the video section, and they have 6 colorblindness tests there, which immediately, to me, I think is great. And I do mean all of what I'm saying here to be praise to the developers, 1047 game. I do think that having those 6... Here, let's go. Colorblindness tests there is great because... Like, I know I'm not colorblind. I've done colorblindness tests before and such, but I know that, so looking at that, I can see everything. But I knew a guy in college, he didn't find out he was colorblind until he was in high school. And that's a real thing. That is very real. If there's a good chance you know somebody who's colorblind, might not have come up in conversation. But that is very real, that people go a lot of their lives, many years before realizing that they are in fact colorblind. Yes, come on in. I think... Okay. I will need... well, let's... Everything down, just up. I am going to need to expand this out so that so that I have more beds. There we go. That's all I was trying to get to. Which actually shouldn't. Alright, I can just do that. But yeah, so having those tests there is great because it is a way that somebody can find out that they are in fact colorblind and then start making adjustments in order to address that. But yeah, I mean, just like it is hard for me when to really know what colors it is my dad has trouble seeing. It's if you aren't colorblind, well, if you don't realize you're colorblind, it's very hard to find out, except from these tests. So having that there is great. And then you've got the different options there of off, and then the 3 different actual medical names for the types of colorblindness. And then also an intensity option for how the colorblindness, I would say, filter. And I have no idea what that would be under. Sorry, my brain's partially tuning off. I know the point that I know a point I wanted to get to, but I kind of lost my train of thought. I do find it a little unfortunate that the intensity setting is turned all the way up to 10, because then it's like, why would anyone, if they find that, oh, this works best, that, oh, I should turn this on, I apparently have that color blindness, or they know what it is and turn it on immediately. Why would you ever turn it down from 10? I do wonder about that. But in any case, you do that when you're messing with that. You do see the whole settings menu get affected by the changes, including the tests. So you are definitely able to figure out what your colorblindness is, what will work best for you in the game. So that's nice. But when you come out of the settings menu, it continues to be that way for the entire frame. I could see Splitgate has a banner type thing in some of the levels, probably all levels, that on one side has a red stripe and one side has a blue stripe. And I could see the red was shifted when setting it for what would work for my dad, more to an orange it went. I was looking in the training ground, which doesn't necessarily have a lot of like contrasty places like the red currant bushes over here. Yeah, like this. He would have trouble. he would almost certainly have trouble telling that, oh, there's berries there to pick. Now, true, they're not ripe yet. They're flowering. But it still is. That's something that would probably be harder for him. But it's like they actually in Splitgate seem to have the splitting tomatoes. Sorry, not splitting. That was why I say splitting. Picking tomatoes design. The picking tomatoes standard achieved. And it's like that is very important to me. Because it's like this is something that we should be getting right. And it's also I don't know exactly how they're doing it. I don't. But in theory, it could be done with just a post-process filter that applies a lookup table for the colors. And I could believe that that's what they're doing. I don't know. I do not know, but I can believe that's what they're doing in the intensity filter, intensity setting, is the blending between what is produced by the lookup table and the original color. I could believe that that's what it is. Oh wait, no, can't. Cop. And it's like that makes sense, and it is something that could be applied generically to the entire image, because it would just be a post-process filter. If I had one of the newer AMD GPUs, I would definitely be looking at, because they added something in, it was a few months ago at least, in drivers for color blindness, where it's actually in the driver. It's not needing to be in game. But unfortunately, that is only RDNA 1 and newer, so my Vega 64, which is the newest I got, is not supported. And I guess that'll work as a transition to the last thing actually, that I have here, which is the RX 6600 XT releasing, which I've looked at some stuff, not too much. It looks like it's a weird... It's kind of a weird placement of a card, I feel. But we're going to set aside the MSRP currently. We're going to set aside price. As far as performance goes, AMD is marketing it as a 1080p card. And based on some stuff I've seen, that is accurate for ray tracing. When you're not ray tracing, for traditional rasterization, this thing is like a solid 1440p card, it seems. Which is good. And like for me, that would work fine for just rasterization. I still would want something more powerful so that I can do ray tracing in games I review, but it's still, like, for that target, it does very well. It does have certain issues to it, though. Apparently it's only a PCIe 4.0 Gen 4 by 8 physical connection there. You had the full-length slot, but it's only a by 8 connection, which, some people are going to make a lot out of that, because technically that means then that at a if you have it in a PCIe 3 slot, it will be limited to that same by 8, whereas PCIe 4 by 8 is the equivalent of PCIe 3 by 16. They actually do double the bandwidth with the generation. Which is very convenient, isn't it? What? Okay, I'm gonna cancel and... to hopefully actually get them done. Now, for probably the people that, 1080p card would be targeting, that isn't going to be an issue, would be my guess. So it's like for me, replacing the RX 580, this would be perfect. The thing is the pricing. It's priced at $379, I think it is, MSRP. And apparently they did manage to achieve that for a while, but it sounds like once the initial stock was sold out, that they might not be able to keep that. Like, I was even seeing something that there's at least the rumor that, come on brain, turn over again. That AIB partners were subsidizing retailers. So they were actually paying retailers some so that they could have the cards sell at MSRP. Which it might seem weird, but it actually makes a lot of sense because there is so much... yeah, anger and frustration. It is anger that people can't get these things at MSRP. So it makes sense then to actually take a hit to help with that. It did copy the priority as well. But, it's like once stock burns out then, or once that marketing gimmick is done, then prices will go up, which is unfortunate. But it is just... see, for me, my feeling is this. Well, yes, it is to just upgrade from... select it. What the heck? Oh, okay, I see. Like, if all I wanted to do was upgrade from the RX 580, it would be perfect. It would be quite a leap in performance for... but I don't. I mean, what I want to upgrade is what I want to do is basically upgrade from the Vega 64, which would be more so the 6800 XT. So yeah, price, and at $379, like the RX 580 launched at, I believe it was $250, and I got mine for $200, and like a month later, I remember it dropped to like $190 or $180, something like that. But $200 to $250 was where the RX 580 had been selling at for a lot of its lifetime. Obviously now it's inflated for craziness. But, okay, let's Oh, no, I do already have it. Oh yeah, let's see. So I'm just trying to figure out what is brewing under. But items at campfires, stoves, smokehouse, butchering. Black. Smithing is habit. Yeah, I'm sorry, this is just... There's a reason why in the review I did heavily criticize this design. Because it is... I'm sorry, what is brewing under? It should be under cooking. But it's not listed here, so I don't know. And no one's going... Well, actually at the moment I don't have enough resources. But I don't know who's going to it or when it's gone to. Anyway, but yeah, so a $3.79 price for that is, in the current market, fine. Actually good if you can get it at that. But in the market of somebody like me wanting to upgrade, it's not so good. Because it's like, yeah, it's double the performance of what I had before, of what I currently have, but at like 33%, but like a 33% increase in price, which is not exactly that great, especially if you are somebody that you want to buy the $200 to $300 GPU. If that's what you're going after, this doesn't help. But one thing that I was rambling about last week, I think it was last week, was that this, I'm not too concerned right now with the MSRPs, because it makes sense to me that they are artificially turning the MSRPs up just to be in line with what things are actually selling for today. And not necessarily in a, oh, because they want to get that extra money out of you. But, you know, which is going to feel better? or upset you less? Why you... Oh, okay, that's... I thought it gave me a warning message that wasn't going. But which is better, to see a $380 card selling for $570 because of the current markup stuff, or to see a $250 card marked up to that? Yeah. And it's also, it's like, we think we can actually get these things sold at $380. At $250, oh yeah, they could definitely, they would sell very quickly, but realistically, because part of the reason that the prices are up is supply. Not always just in the availability of the parts, but also transportation of them. The logistics costs are up as well. So yeah, it's just, as I was kind of sort of getting to poorly, I'm not too concerned, because I do think that these things will settle eventually, that we will see the stuff, the issues and get to the point that I'm just gonna that was another change that they made, actually, where you've got the different assets. So, like, you know, there's a small pile, there's a full pile. I do remember that being listed in the patch note. Yeah, I do believe that we will see the pricing eventually decrease once things normalize, once things stabilize. It's just still going to be a while for that, unfortunately, but is what it is. I mean, hey, if they can be, let's get them harvested. Yeah, I mean, hopefully stuff will fix itself. Hopefully stuff will normalize before long. but it'll probably still be months. Hopefully before we get to the next generation of release. Like that especially. Oh boy, that would be lousy for everyone if basically the RX 6000 series and RTX 3000 series are just always marked up. No one's really gonna like that. But yeah, I mean, I could see, like what I was saying last week, I think it was last week, NVIDIA could do, they probably won't, but could do a, like, RTX 30 Super Series release where they can then bring the MSRPs back down. It's like, because that would be an opportunity to reset that kind of thing. You know what? My hand, is that gonna be better inside or outside? It doesn't. Decide where I want. AMD doesn't typically do, well, yeah, I shouldn't really say that because the 500 series was kind of just a refresh of the 400 series. But they don't have like half generation refreshes. I think, yeah. So like, you know, there isn't, we don't see like a Vega 64 Super or something like that. But yeah, I do think though that if that's something that they end up doing, or that this would be a generation that would be worth doing that with, where you do in fact do something that'll reset the MSRPs back to where they should be, or they make sure that they get the 7000 series, 7000 series out in time to have that effect. But yeah, it's the pricing definitely is not great. But I'm just, I don't really care because none of the pricing is great at the moment. But it is also, you know, like, because I was thinking the whole, you know, I could try to purchase one, so I'd finally have an upgrade and have a modern AMD GPU instead of just Vega 64 being the newest. I could do that, but I don't like the pricing. I mean, that is kind of how it boils down for me. I mean, I do believe that the pricing will come down. It might be months, but it's what I have is working fine. So yeah, it's like the pricing will eventually come down and I can buy then. And that, you know, being a pricing coming down because things normalize and went back to MSRP, and in the case of the 6600, I could believe that it'll be actually they will go to a lower than MSRP price. The 6800 and 6800 XT, I could believe, would just stabilize back to their MSRP. Not sure about 6900. 6900 is weird because of it being, it needs to be the perfect die, so you might not see that come down in price ever, but, you know, that's different. How long have I been going? Yeah, let me see. Because I do have Aaron's perfect. I can be stopping now. Do have an Aaron I need to run. Can do that and get the thumbnail. But yeah, so I mean that is just my feeling with the current GPU market and that release, is that it looks like it is actually a good GPU. The pricing sucks. And it also depends on what you want to use it for. Like, it's good at 1080, not great, but good at 1080 with ray tracing. It's just, you don't want to go to 1440p with ray tracing is what it looked like I was seeing. And also some games are going to be a lot worse than others, but that's already the case. Some games are the ray tracing is much, much harder. And by the way, for anyone being like, oh, well, the games where the performance impact isn't that much, well, they don't make it, the effects don't make a difference anyway. It's like, yes, ray tracing is a horizontal image quality movement. It really is. Because we got very good at impersonating ray tracing with rasterization. There are some things that, like some global illumination stuff, that not quite so much, but it still is we're not, it's not that big a leap really, unless it is you are really, really diving into certain specific effects. And it's also early implementation type stuff too, so that's keeping that performance being poor. But yeah, it's just but for I know I keep losing my train of thought. It has been a weird week for me. Okay, it has been a weird and very busy week for me. But at just rasterization, which is 98% of all games today. Actually 100% of all games. The only exception would be, I guess, 2 exceptions. But do you really count the Quake 2, the VKPTQ2? Was that it? I don't remember it now. The Quake 2 we created with ray tracing, that open source project that then NVIDIA co-opted and made into Quake 2 RTX, and Metro Exodus Enhanced Edition. Those are the only 2 things I can think of right now that are nope, you need a ray tracing GPU to run these, period. But in both cases are just special versions of a game that already exists, and doesn't require ray tracing. So yeah, it is still 100% of all games. So it's like having that strong rasterization, that's what you need. That's what you're looking for. Do we need to worry about it past that? Or how much do we need to worry about it past that? And also one other thing that, because what I've been working on is I talked about it before, some more work with the GPU thermal scripts that I wrote. And just, going through the results that I have for the VX64 and such, are there any reviewers? I'm not sure. Maybe I can try asking about, because we do have a 6600 XT review up. Testing that with the auto undervolt on, and maybe also the auto overclock. Actually, let me quickly look, because I haven't been looking too closely at many reviews, just because I'm not buying one of these, so I haven't been too closely. There we go. Just have to read through it. But the auto undervolt on the Vega 64 made such a difference. It really is significant. Like the distribution of frequency shifted very dramatically with that. So I do wonder how many people. My point being, the auto undervolt is a great thing to just enable. So I do wonder with reviews how many reviewers are enabling that to see what kind of impact it has. Okay, getting. Unfortunately, in the review, in the overclocking section, he didn't have like a summary thing that just listed it. We had those a while ago, but he also does a lot more explanation for what all's offered, including mentioning the automatic options. But does mention. Okay, so it doesn't have a restriction to 3 gigahertz, which is nice. He was able to overclock the XFX RX 6600 XT Merc 308 to about 2.7 gigahertz. Wasn't that big of an FPS increase. Apparently he was able to get it to 2.75, but some games had issues with that. It normally... Yeah, it looks like it was normally able to reach 2.6 gigahertz, though, so... Not necessarily that big a leap there, but it is also... Like, today, a lot of, like, CPUs and GPUs, a lot of them are already running very close to their potential, so you don't always have that much headroom to play with. And... Yeah, it has been interesting going through some of the data to see the behavior, the thermal behavior, but also power behavior and frequency behavior for some of the GPUs I have. Yeah, I do think that the article will be interesting. It's just, I've got 3 configurations done, 2 for the Vega 64 and 1 default, 1 with the auto undervolt. And the third configuration is the RTX 2060, and I need to get to the 5 other GPUs I have data for. That's going to take me probably a good chunk of next week. And then I need to do editing stuff as well. Yeah, hey, it is actually fun. I do enjoy doing this. But just the auto undervolt, or just undervolting in general on the Vega 64 is very successful, so I do wonder how successful it would be for the other thing. Because it is, you may be able to get it to go up to that, 2.7, 2.75 gigahertz, manually overclocking it, but it is, a lot of people will combine an overclock with an undervolt, because the undervolt opens up both more power, because it's able to handle like more resistance at you lower the volt. Okay, hopefully I'm remembering this correctly. Power is current. Voltage is current times resistance. So I'm pretty sure you're able to mess with something. I hope I'm remembering this stuff. It has been a decade though, more than actually. But it's like balancing things out. Having the voltage lower helps with that, but also with the temperature by pumping less power in there, and by to achieve the same frequency. That also means then you can go to a higher frequency at a little bit more power. Like I said, this has been a long week for me. The undervolting allows you it will lower the amount of thermal power being produced, lower amount of heat being produced, which can then, at the same frequency, which means then that you can, at the same amount of heat being produced, go to a higher frequency. So some people combine undervolting with overclocking because it opens up that ability to push the overclock higher. I don't do that. I'm fine with stock performance. I just like undervolting because it lets it run cooler and basically keeps it away from the thermal throttle limit, which some of what I just said about what undervolting allows you to achieve is, yes, avoiding the thermal throttle limit, but it is also just how the GPU will naturally try to balance things. The throttle limit is more like, hey, you need to slow down now, whereas other times it's like, this is going up, so now this doesn't go up as far. So, yeah, and it's just, undervolting is really cool. And there is some other neat stuff I wish I could do, but I don't know how. Anyway, yeah, I said I was going to be stopping about 10 minutes ago, so I need to actually stop so I can get lunch, go on errands, and yeah. But yeah, so you can check out the XFX RX 6600 XT Merc 308 review on the website. It is the newest article currently. Let me see. We got 3D Mark, VRMark, IDA 64, Blender, Anno 1800, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Borderlands 3, Control, Cyberpunk 2077, Dirt 5, Ghost Recon Breakpoint, Godfall, GTA 5, Metro Exodus, Monster Hunter World, Civ 6, Total War Warhammer 2, The Division 2, Red Dead Redemption 2, Watch Dogs Legion. All those games and those benchmarks tested in that, and that's just like the rasterization. There's also ray tracing testing here for Control, Metro Exodus, Watch Dogs Legion, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, the Medium, Minecraft, which would be Minecraft RTX, Quake 2 RTX, Cyberpunk 2077, and also 3D Mark with it. And he even looked at Fidelity FX Super Resolution being enabled in there. So it's like he did a lot of testing there. Okay, he really did a lot, and I doubt much of that, if any of that, can be automated. 3D Mark, I know you can, but I don't know if he did it that way. I mean, it's like that's a lot of data to go through. I'm having to go through just 35 different recordings for this article. Yes, they're 2 hours a piece, but it's still only 35 things. It's like looking through the graphs, looking through the stats. I respect working with a lot of data because it is a lot. It really is a lot. All right. Yeah, that's it. I really do need to stop talking. See you next time, when I will probably be back in Mad Max. Unless there's something like The Last Spell, which was another game that entered into early access. If that gets a major update, I'll be back for that. Because that's how I want to handle early access updates for these games I reviewed at early access release. See you next.